Hi and welcome to Chord Piano. This is the level 1 chord inversions lesson. My name is Mark Deeks and I'm going to be showing you how there are actually lots of different ways to play the same chords. If you haven't already done so, I would really encourage you to have a look at some of the beginner chord lessons and the other level 1 chord lessons before attempting this, because it may be that I use some terminology that if you haven't looked at those, you won't be familiar with. An inversion with chords is very much like, I'd often describe it to people as like when you have a new pack of playing cards. When you first have the pack of playing cards and you take them out of the box, the cards tend to be in a normal order, in numerical order from the beginning of the suit to the end of the suit. But then when you want to play a game, you shuffle the cards about. What you've got there is you've got exactly the same cards, but you've now got them in a different order. And that's kind of the same concept as we have when we have chord inversions, and I'll show you what I mean by that. All of the chords that we've played so far on the Chord site involve playing 3 notes with the thumb, middle finger and little finger, obviously at the same time as each other, 3 notes at the same time. And we named the chord after the note that the thumb was playing, in that case C major. Whilst that is the standard right hand chord position shape, and indeed left hand if you ever need to play chords on the left hand, but as I've shown you elsewhere on the Chord site, chords in left hand on solo piano tend to sound quite muddy. So we tend to like chords to be in this middle area of the piano or higher. The standard triad shape is this thumb, middle finger and little finger. But that's not the only shape that we use to play chords on piano. Very commonly we might use 1, 2 and 5 or 1, 2 and 4. It can very much depend on where we are in a particular song, where we've just come from in terms of which notes we've just played, and more importantly, where we're going to next. So I'm going to show you how to play with a different finger position or a different combination of fingers as we tackle this idea of chord inversions. The note that gave the chord its name so far, as I've just mentioned, was underneath the thumb. And what we have there is a C, an E and a G. But as you'll have already grasped on piano, the same notes happen time and time again. They're just in different, what we call different octaves. So just like this is a C, so is this one. And just like this is an E, so is this one. And so on. They're an octave apart. So rather than just playing what we call a root position chord all the time, where the note that's given the chord its name is the lowest note, I can in fact, just like with a pack of playing cards, shuffle those notes about and have the same notes but in a different order. So I'm going to take the C from being the lowest note and I'm going to make it the highest note. And now I've got an E as my lowest note. Now as you can see, I still have a C, I still have an E and I still have a G. So it's still a chord of C major because the same notes are still being played. But this is what I would call, and what musicians would refer to, as a first inversion C major chord. Because I've inverted the chord once, and inverting the chord means taking the lowest note off the bottom and putting it on the top. And now means I've got what was the number 3 in the chord as the lowest note, and that's a first inversion chord. Number 3 is the lowest note. And if I do it again, note from the bottom and put it on the top, now the note that was the number 5, the G, is now my lowest note. So there are 3 different versions of C major there. Notice if I do the process again, I end up with a C as the lowest note again. So I'm back to a root position chord, it's just an octave higher than that one. So because there are 3 notes in this chord, there are 3 potential different versions of it. C major root position, to give it its full name. C major first inversion, with the E on the bottom, C major second inversion with the G on the bottom. What those of you who are paying attention might have noticed is I actually used a different combination of fingers for one of those inversions. Which one was it? Root position, first inversion, second inversion. It's the first inversion. Root position and second inversion, with both of those, had thumb, middle finger and little finger. But with the first inversion, I swapped my middle finger to my second finger. And as I've said to you, whilst you do use different combinations of fingers in different points in different songs, that's a pretty common shape for a first inversion chord, to swap the middle finger for a second finger. That's simply because the gap in a first inversion chord is smaller at the left-hand side than it is at the right-hand side. There's a bigger gap here. So I reflect that in my hand shape and my finger choice. 1 and 2 with 5 on the bottom. So it's a 2 in the middle, not a 3.